Good evening, everyone. I welcome all of you to this first webinar of webinar series as organized by United Group of Institutions, Prayagraj. I welcome all the participants. I hope and wish that all of you are safe and healthy. I know that everyone is finding this VUCA environment at a global level, right? So a lot of uncertainties are there. So here we are, here we present the first webinar. So what is this VUCA? I hope everyone knows, but since first year students are also here, I know, I can understand. So let me tell you that here in the term VUCA, V stands for volatile, right? There are changes in the global situations and global economy. So V is for volatile. U stands for uncertain. We are in a state of uncertainty, right? Where we have in general less predictable outcomes and resolutions. Now C, what is C? C stands for complex. We have seen the complexity of the environment, right? How businesses and economies in one hemisphere impact the businesses and economies of several other countries. We have seen this. Then A is for ambiguous. So we cannot deny the fact that the current landscape is full of ambiguity. So yes, indeed, we are in VUCA environment. So through this webinar, we will try to understand and explore some basic concepts and ideas, challenges and opportunities so that all of us start navigating this complex, career and business landscape. So this is our major objective. Now, today we have a relevant person with us from Happiest Minds Private Limited, and this is a mindful IT company which is headquartered in Bangalore with operations in the US, UK, the Netherlands, Australia, and Middle East. And this company applies agile methodologies to enable digital transformation for enterprises and technology providers. And so you must be happy to know that it is positioned as born digital, born agile. So I would like to welcome on behalf of the entire United family, I would like to welcome Mr. Sandeep Agrawal, the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Digital Business Services, Happiest Minds. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and to conduct this seminar, this webinar. So we are really highly delighted to have your socially distant but digitally dynamic presence over here in this webinar. So I wish you all the best that you have got this platform, and even we are more than happier because we have got this opportunity to make you interact, through this mode also with the students. Earlier you were there in our campus. So Mr. Sandeep, as you know that today we are going to focus upon the current topic, today's topic, which is career and opportunities to succeed in the digital era. So let us start with a very common question that what is this digital era all about? Because students from first year to final year, mixed lot of students and faculty members are here. So let us start with the concept of digital era. Where are we moving ahead? So let us start with that only and then.
Sure.
Thank you.
So many thanks, Dr. Divya and the whole management of United Group of Institutions. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, many thanks for giving this platform. It was a pleasure to come to the college just a couple of months back and have interactive sessions with the professors, madam yourself and the students. So it's a good opportunity to continue our conversation and have this industry academic partnership. Of course, we took various initiatives, but due to lockdown, I think things have slowed down. Sure, it will come back again and we'll have a golden opportunity to work together. So I look forward to that. And so again, we have been in discussion and I've seen the management's response to this lockdown and how they've been actually serving the students, making them learn, getting their skills updated and just be ready for the change that you talked about. Of course, we are in a very, is the best of the VUCA world, I'll say, from an opportunity point of view. And that's why if you look at it, the topic is not about saying challenges. It is actually more of opportunity, right? Every challenge throws up an opportunity. And I think it gives us a wonderful opportunity for all of us here. And I'm sure we'll have a great debate today in terms of where this particular digital technology is taking in, how it can actually support us in terms of the COVID. So thanks again, Divya ma'am. for the same. So let me talk about the digital era. I think raised a very important question, Dr. Divya. The digital era, as you all know, we have come from the agriculture to industrial era of industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0. And we are in a cusp of a very exponential technology growth. So I think the hindrance that we had in 1990s, if you look at it, when the internet first came in, and I'm starting 1990s because most of the students here have actually born during that particular time. So it's important to give that particular context in terms of how decades wise things have changed. So 1990 threw in internet edge for all of us. We all started getting connected. Right? Prior to that, it was absolutely difficult to even connect up, do a global business, and people were just managing without most of the communication channels being available. But 1990s threw up a whole new possibility with the internet coming in. It further expanded in the 2000 era when basically we got access to a network of networks where the social group started taking more precedence and people started internet to more connecting socially and literally starting to communicate, share the knowledge and learn from each other and expand the whole footprint of what we see today digital. The 2010 to 2020 era, which is the last decade, I'll call it actually, which ended in 2019, and which has a ripple effect in terms of the technology because not only the internet was prevalent, but the adaptability of cloud and mobile. Cloud is required for compute, storage, data, everything. And mobile is required for giving access to that particular data, which the compute is doing in easy access to your hands. With these two prevalent technologies, the cloud and mobile becoming very comfortable and to the use of the common people, it became the norm that now things are going to change. And what we saw in this particular decade, 2010 to 2019, is the revolution of M2M, IoT, analytics. So people started talking to machine, machine started talking to machine, and we saw that whole network actually people, machine, people, and different combinations of that particular things happening in this particular era. So that gave us that, okay, fine, things are getting connected, people can talk to machines, machines can talk to people. In 2020, just before the COVID, and luckily or unluckily, we are in this particular situation of COVID, and I'll cover that aspect in a little while. But just before COVID, if you look at the pre-COVID era, even 3 months before or 5 months before in December, when people were looking at the digital technology, this era, what we are calling is 2020 onwards, was going to go for an exponential growth. I think people had proven the technology and the business cases was getting to the extent that people looked at convenience as the major factor in which the business use cases was getting defined. And we had literally things that every industry had thought about how they could leverage technology to their best and go into this particular digital era. Then comes the COVID, which started in January, and we have seen actually we are during the COVID, so we can't even say we are at post-COVID. We are during the COVID era, and I think what COVID has actually done to us, this pandemic may have locked the world, but actually gave us a point in time to liberate our thinking as we become more appreciative of our life, right? What are the essential components that are really necessary to look at our life in holistic perspective, right? It gave a growing sense of what this unique opportunity is going to present to us. And it allowed us to regroup, reboot, and revamp. This particular conversation would not also be happened unless it was the COVID that forced us to actually do this particular technology. And we are here with 215 people coming and talking about actually how we could leverage this particular opportunity. So that is all possible because of the COVID situation that we are all in. So it's a very, very highly opportunistic time that we have. Going actually during the COVID and post the COVID. So many people are saying that we will go back to the 2019. It's just a matter of time, right? In 6 months time, 9 months time, we will go back to where we were in 2019 and the world would be same. It's a myth actually. As we view things, at least what we have seen, things are going to be very, very different, right? The technologies are not going to be different, but the use cases that we are going to give prominence to or the priorities to are going to change very, very drastically. So coming and spending from a space organization or doing a nuclear readiness and things like that, we have shifted to basic healthcare and how a common man will be able to give a healthcare focus, how the education can be given online where education is available through the mediums of connectivity, and why this connectivity is actually playing a big role. So what was planned after 5 to 10 years that we will use technology, this are going to be in an extra force and a speed that we will see now things would change. And 5G adoption will be a very key adoption in this particular thing so that we can all get connected even to the lowest level, and they would be able to get the services and connectivity that they need, right? Uh,
Right.
so, yes. So I just wanted to touch on one topic and then we'll take the questions is about what we are brought up as, right? So if you look at the 5 questions generally people ask on anything that you do is why, what, how, when, and where. Now, the problem actually what has happened is whenever somebody meets somebody, the first question is, what are you doing, right? You have a guest in your home and you are studying and you basically, the guest first thing ask is, what are you doing, right? And your question is, of course, I am studying in the United Group of Institutions, computer science, third year, and then how, when, where, all that questions comes in. Nobody actually asks the question is why. Why are you doing this particular engineering, right? And none of us have given that particular thought of why did I choose this particular engineering and what is that I'm going to do with that? What is this particular path that I've taken which is going to result in a purpose? So unless we have a purpose in that particular life, it's going to be extremely difficult in terms of how we are going to adopt the technology. So why is what human beings are actually given the gift from nature perspective, and that gift cannot be given to the robots and to the augmented innovations that we are talking about, because that's the thinking human beings can apply. The what part of it is also the specs that human beings will apply, but the how part of it is going to be left to the machines, right? And that's what the machines can do much better. So when we look at automation, when we look at AI, when we look at all these emerging technologies, people really gets confused in terms of, will I survive in this particular stuff? If my job is taken over by the automation, what will happen? It's actually the changing world, right? We have seen the example of Kodak when the cameras were available. There was large labs that were actually just printing this negative prints into the lab. And literally there was many companies that or industries or businesses that was surviving on that particular stuff. But given the digital revolution, when digital prints started coming in, all that thing vanished and people moved on and started doing the digital prints. So that's how the people are going to move on. And I think who all is going to focus on the why and what and not really get into the how part of it is going to be the people who are going to succeed.
Right, right. So, Mr. Sandeep, there is a question like, see, we have been working remotely, right, with great experience since long.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's been around 3 months we have been working remotely. So, all of us and working professionals have started predicting that mass remote working for prolonged times would change the social behavior of people and expectations from companies. Number one. Number two, they it will make people more mature in remote working. It is a positive sign as well, and people will start having a home office to qualify for jobs in future. So the question is that, will the remote and digital working become the new norm?
Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Divya. I think it's a valid question, and yes, we also feel that it's going to be the new norm. And
Mhm.
I think it throws in more opportunities, right? Because your experience is going to count in the coming future, not the location in which you reside. You will be called upon from different locations, even worldwide, where you will be able to actually build your experience, show your particular work, and work at any different place. Even when we look at Happiest Minds, actually, we are thinking about, do we really need that kind of facilities, campuses, and everything to get everybody to work? If things are happening fine, people are avoiding traffic, we are actually giving back to the nature in terms of saving the pollution and all the mess that we are creating on the roads. Is it not safe that people who can really work from home is better off by doing that? And literally coordinate, save that particular time and be more productive, give yourself the time and space. But in all that, actually, the critical aspect, Divya, is going to be self-management, right?
Self-management, right?
Going to be a very, very key. If somebody has to literally do the work from home, unless he's doing self-management, because there's not going to be a hierarchy, there's not going to be a boss who's overlooking you, and you are kind of waiting for that office kind of setup to happen and all. It's all about you, right? How much you're going to devote to work versus your home.
So does this mean that more and more companies will now depend on technology as an alternate channel to continue with the same pace of productivity? Is this so?
Yes, absolutely. So technology has been there. I think the collaborations, at least at the office space, people were used to conference because clients were always world over, and people used to communicate in that particular respect with all the clients. And this is going to more norm with employees to employee communication, which was actually not happening, and it was happening at office space. So we do consider that yes, it will be a norm going forward, and it's a good one actually. I think it gives the creativity, the space without getting bogged by one particular four walls of your office.
Right, right. But see, we are dealing with the students, right? Directly, we are in touch with the students. So we can see that students are in stress and dilemma. So those who have been offered are worried about their joining dates, about their offer letters, right? And those who are still unplaced, they were waiting for their placement drives because we were planning some placement drives in the month of March, April, and even May. So those who are still unplaced are also anxious and unsure about of their job and career aspects and opportunities. So although we are trying at our own level, we are trying our level best to align online interviews and online recruitment drives, but still we know the current status. So how and to what extent this social distancing phase uh, has impacted and would continue to impact further the overall business and career opportunities, and how this digital business solution would be seen as the silver lining in this hard time, because it is very important to make the students understand this because we have to solve their queries. And yes, and it is very much genuine that the question that is there in their mind, that when and why and how, these three questions are there in their minds.
Absolutely. So the anxiety levels are definitely high, right? And I'm sure as students are worried about, a lot of employees are worried as well. If you look at, there is 22 million jobs that has gone out of the US just in 2 months of time. And the unemployment rate has gone to the peak. So it's just not about the students, it's about the world. And it happens always then when we go through this kind of a change, which is completely unanticipated, we have to actually face it. And but it really turns into the opportunity, right? What we are feeling is today business is at 40% down levels. Our GDP is at a world over is 14% down, and with that kind of metrics, the only thing that is possible is an exponential growth. And we see that what COVID has actually done is COVID has not broken our system. COVID has just exposed our broken system. And that's
Exactly.
important to know, right? Because the system was broken. COVID did come and literally snatch our telecom network and literally hijacked it, and nothing it did. But it just broken the system, that in case certain things happens, how are we prepared as human beings first to handle it? And what were the loopholes? Where were the connectivity there? Where were people being able to do the job, so work from home, work, all that kind of possibility, right? And new avenues, right? If you just look at the kind of reform the government has just announced in a 1 week's time, you will see the opportunities within that is enormous. There are zones that has been identified as industries. So there is a job for civil industry people. Buildings are going to grow, newer cities are going to come, the manufacturing setups is going to grow. So there is in n number of jobs that are going to open up in the civil industry. Mechanical industry, same thing. As the industries grows, the mechanical assets are going to grow in the particular industry. Electronics will get back into the demand. So I think India is at a verge where I'll say actually it's a huge potential. But what you need to do at this particular time is, instead of actually getting worried about the job, is to see how are you getting prepared for this particular thing when it opens up. how are you ready for that particular thing, right? What skills are you developing? Are you knowing about the latest technologies? Are you understanding the solution? It's not just not about a theoretical understanding of the subject, but literally applying it practically, right? Even in your common things within your groups, there could be a practical projects that people do. Today, music festivals are happening around the world without everybody coming to one platform and doing it together. And that gives enough hope that yes, the practical labs are going to be available. There are companies that are working on this cloud computing labs, practical labs. I think we should use that particular thing to just hone our knowledge. It's going to take time. Not everybody is going to get the job immediately, but it's not far away actually. Just as the COVID slope starts reducing, there's going to be enormous opportunity that is going to come. So just be prepared, reskill yourself, look at the learning courses, talk to the industry experts. Today, so many industry people are available and you don't have to call them, look at that particular stuff, get them actually talking about a few things. They could guide the projects, they could mentor the projects, and so much leverage you can actually take it so that the students are absolutely prepared in terms of when it happens, they are there. The second thing that's going to happen, Divya, and I think students have to look at it, is a forced entrepreneurship. Earlier, entrepreneurship was a choice. Now, because of the situations and the layoffs company are doing, many senior people are coming out and they are forced into a forced entrepreneurship. That means a lot of ideas are going to come, a lot of new companies are going to be born, and there are government incentives to that particular stuff. And each of these companies will need the scale where they will actually need lot of hands with respect to the technology, that they can actually look at people and remotely even work out and build up that particular plans and ideas. So we just need to be open, keep your ears and mouth open, ears and eyes open, and look at for the opportunities that you can grab, and literally make the best use of this.
Right. So one more question that I have received from the students, that since we are already encouraging our students to go for online skill certification programs and online trainings, internship opportunities, and that really helps. So how far these online skill certifications are going to help the students in their upskilling or reskilling? How would it compensate with the applied skills, especially when it comes to the core engineering students, core engineering branch students? Because they have lesser options, and then accordingly they are a little worried that what should be the best option for them for online certifications and all.
Sure. See, I think today what is required is technology is going to be pervasive. Technology is going to be there everywhere. So even for the core students, it doesn't. I think there's a false myth that they should understand programming, coding, and that's how they would be actually relevant in the industry. It's not true, right? So what is going to happen is within their frame of thing. Just see the bridge just behind me, right? This bridge is not a connected bridge. It doesn't talk, right? If tomorrow this bridge has to be developed, a lot of thinking needs to go in terms of how this could be a connected bridge. Where is the information going to come of how many cars are going to this particular stuff, how many bridge gaps are needs a repair, how's the weather conditions going to affect this particular bridge, everything actually. So the thinking process in terms of what I would be doing when I'm doing this particular bridge, even for a civil structural student, is going to be important. Same like the mechanical, right? Any product that you are going to see tomorrow that's going to come, which a mechanical engineer is going to do, is going to think about how an electronic things, how this human is going to talk to this particular object and get the reading, right? Today, weighing scales, if you look at it, a simple example of a weighing scale, we just stand on it and gives a weighing scale. Today, people talk to the weighing scale and says, okay, I've stood on it, give me my BMI, give me my health parameter, give me my height, weight, everything. So that is the thinking that the course students needs to apply while looking at it. Don't worry about getting into programming and everything, but everything that they are doing it, just see how the electronics or computer are going to, and leave the job of doing that programming and making it work to the electronics and computer engineering student. But how part of it again has to be thought through by every core engineering students, because technology is going to be there in everything around us.
I have been receiving some questions from the students on the spot. Brijesh Shukla has asked that The comparison between USA and Indian GDP shows we need something remarkable in the field of research.
Yes.
So, yeah, so can you throw light in this direction?
Absolutely. So I think that was the ignored area. I would say actually the amount, the things that we have given to research was completely low, and I think people have realized, government has realized, institutions have realized, private players have realized it, and there is enormous talks happening across the places as we speak. Even I was there in the NASCOM forum, and the talk is basically how do we fund more research that is going to happen. Research in medical field, research in electronics field, research in space programs. How is the research is going to, because that's what I think, like I said before, the human brains is tuned for research. It's not tuned to do things as it is put in. That machines are better used to. They will make less errors if they are doing the job compared to humans. But humans are trained to actually do more research, thinking, the why part, the innovations, the creativity. And I think research is the channel that we need to use it to put that. So you'll see a very different research going in, right? And I'll not be surprised if the first vaccine that gets rolled out, somebody really comes out from India itself with a very small time in the research, and they will make it. India is known for jugaad, and I think this particular advantage as well to come out with a particular research idea as well.
Okay, so Akash Mishra has asked, Chinese market have a chance to shift in India?
So it has to be looked at different perspective, right? China, I don't think is going to go out from a global market, but yes, there is a little bit of
Chinese,
trust. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, Chinese market have a chance to shift in India. This is the statement that has been given by Fernando Studio.
Yes. So basically, I think it's an opportunity for India and how India takes it, right? It's not about just India. There are many countries, including US, which are trying to actually bring back manufacturing into their particular step. So whatever self-reliance we talked about, which our Honorable Prime Minister talked about, it's not just an India story. The self-reliance is going to be a global story. Every country is going to think about how they would be sustainable with their own products and their own supply chain being actually first available to the people of their country without having heavy reliance on a different country where they don't even have, when the supply chain breaks out, the first thing people feel is where I'm going to get my stuff. So even if you look at US, the first item that went out of the shelf was the toilet tissue paper, right? So
Right.
people really had that dependency that only China was producing and exporting that to US because it was a cheap item and no US manufacturing was really wanting to do a toilet paper kind of a product. But now the realization is there and the manufacturing is going to go. So India definitely has an opportunity. I think our government is taking the right initiative in terms of moving and giving the red carpet programs for putting it, but we are not alone. We'll have a tough competition. Just now, yesterday, actually, if you look at Trump announced when Apple said actually they are thinking of India, they said actually if you are thinking of India, we will actually put a lot more tax onto you. If you are not coming from China straight to US, you will get a very benefit on the tax. But if you go to India, we will actually add more tax to you. So that's good.
Right.
We need to actually see the battle. But I think India has a very good chance to take some of those things.
One student has written that everyone would be Atmanirbhar, self-dependent, but for that there should be enough opportunities. And one more question that I can club with this statement: are we moving towards boundaryless careers and the persons with transferable skills or soft skills or non-cognitive skills even, and that person would be preferred over the persons having hard skills and cognitive skills? Is it so? And then you can throw light on the enough opportunities which should be available for being self-dependent and career management, self-career management.
Yes. So basically, the reliance, I think the self-reliance is going to be there. It is going to throw an opportunity. It's just a matter of fact that government, industry, everybody has just realized the importance of it. And thanks to COVID, at least some of the things that is happening, you see the beautiful nature outside, which we have seen it, right? Even Himalayas are visible through the distant places that we have seen. So things are just getting possible there. And the self-reliance is going to definitely throw an opportunity, and the bigger opportunity is the SME and the MSME, right? The small time business, if you have an idea and you can do it on a local basis, right? It's not just local about India, but local about the city, local about that district. And if you have that particular idea of how your local things could be connected, how your local farmers could be connected, how your supply chain could be connected, how things could be delivered in a better place, it's big opportunity that you don't have to depend on just big industries to come and give a job to you. There are multiple things to that. So if you look at autonomous vehicle, till 2019, the autonomous vehicle was only thought as a convenience for the human to basically ride so that he can get a little bit of convenient while driving. And the COVID brought an idea about how autonomous driving can help the supply chain. So there is an ad that you should look at, which is a Domino's Pizza ad, and which basically said actually how an autonomous vehicle in the social distancing space is able to deliver Domino's Pizza with a contactless touch offering where the car just goes, parks at that particular address, opens the window, gives the code, and the person takes the pizza, pays the payment, and goes with it, right? So it's so much important that so much opportunity is there. And more of the supply chain is going to happen now with drones, because drones was also looked at just an entertainment device, which was basically looked upon to capture videos over the flight or engagement, ceremonies, events. But now drones are going to be looked upon as a major supply chain, right? In this, if things can be delivered to you without factory getting shut and without roads getting congested, it's going to be the drones. So you need to look at all this particular aspect and see what in your city, in your district, in your locality is going to change, right? Even the tourist attractions, we talked about it when I was there actually. There is enough things to basically get the income for the local city or the local state, but just including a technology, including a VR technology on the tourist hotspots, and then basically make that particular thing as a big economic zone. So I think more than job, the young generation and all the students today, you're there, you just need to look at the openness in terms of what the possibilities are around you. Take a few challenges within that, and once you have defined your purpose, you will find a way to actually execute and solve that particular problem.
Right, very true, sir. And Kishan Mishra has written that as a student and having our education through a classroom environment, online classroom environment till now. Okay, earlier it was normal mode, but now onwards the things are moving to online mode only. So what do you think that immediate attention being given to? I would like to club one more question, that how would success look like in virtual recruitment, right? Virtual learning, virtual recruitment. So how would success look like? What is your opinion about that?
Yeah, absolutely valid question. Actually, I think the biggest reform that you will see actually happening, at least in India, is going to be education and healthcare, right? And I think this too was completely exposed, like I said, by COVID, of how at government is granting privatization of some of the education institute, bringing the universities of outside to come in and actually establish or collaborate with the institutes of India. And that's going to throw up an online as a mechanism, because you can't expect, even if the curriculum comes here, you can't expect all the professors from different world experts are going to come here. So if you are open to that particular stuff and online is the game, I think you will get access to best of the experts without actually leaving your place, right? And that could be done in a virtual setup. And that's the biggest advantage actually people and the educational institutes are taking about. That it's just not about getting the people, the professors coming to that particular school. Maybe it's a remote town, maybe it's a remote place. But now actually without even having a dedicated professors, how can I enable that whole curriculum to this particular industry experts and the professors who are there outside who cannot come but are wonderfully good to actually impart the training, can come online and give the training. So that is an opening I think we should leverage on and benefit from.
Right. Senthil Prabhu S has asked one question. What technology should the students learn for future? I believe there is a change in the expected trend and forecast now. So what technology?
Yes. So, like I said before, actually, there is no change in the technology. So that's a myth that technology is going to change. The business use cases is going to change, right? So what we were prioritizing, the enterprise modernization, the digital transformation, to bring in more products to the consumers better, give them recommendations, give them analytics, all that particular stuff we were just improving. But I think the COVID has thrown literally a new business use cases, new challenges that nobody thought that it would be a challenge. The same technologies are going to be there, going to be now diverted to this particular new business use cases that are going to be solved. Same IoT, same AI, same ML, same analytics. Technologies are not going to change, but what are they going to do? How am I online education become a reality? Is what AI is going to talk about, right? If I need to learn something, how quickly I get access to that particular learning without getting registered to a particular course or Udemy or that particular stuff, right? So people are going to come with aggregated education's possibility, where most of these platforms itself will become another aggregator on top of it, who will basically say, I'll give you the content from Udemy, Coursera, plus NASCOM, plus government, plus everything, and you choose and you pay for that particular course and not really take a subscription of Udemy on that particular stuff. So new business models are going to arrive, new ways of doing things are going to arrive, new business channels are going to arrive. So I think it's just an opportunity in that sense as well.
Okay. So there are a few questions who are asking the common question that what would be the impact on career opportunities, how to deal with this situation. So we will be discussing in between about these things. But there is another important question. Like, see, we try to encourage the students to go for online certification programs, right? But we also know that each individual has his or her own career interest or aptitude and skill sets. So even if we are moving or we have to enter into the digital era, not everyone can focus on these in-demand skills such as digital marketing, Android, Python, and even business for these entire, especially when we talk about mechanical and civil engineering students. And you can add value to this answer by considering some opportunities which may be related to mechanical and civil engineering students.
Absolutely. I think for just to answer that first, the mechanical and civil engineering, right? Uh, I think the world is going to change for those particular students, right? And the adoption of the technology, like I said, in their areas of field are going to be very much uh, going to be fast forwarded, should I say, right? We looked upon smart homes, we look at smart buildings, we looked at smart campuses, we looked at smart cities, all that particular stuff. A civil engineer is part of that particular things, whether he's creating a building, he's creating a campus, he's creating a structure, public infrastructure, everything. But how these particular things are going to be connected, where things are going to give that particular information of that particular structure in the most accurate way. So what is going to be actually seen is how these particular technologies can be quickly adopted with 5G rolling out, giving us the quality of service with respect to the data that is coming from this particular structures, and how the structures can coordinate, right? So if a room is empty, why should a person say the room is empty? The room itself can actually say that the room is empty, right? And same thing with Airbnb. If Airbnb has multiple things, that itself the house or the flat should come back and say, I'm available, right? It's not booked,
Right.
it's done on me, right? The hotel restaurant, when you go under the table itself should come back and say, I'm available. Anybody wants to come and sit on me, right? So I think the thing that you can think, whatever we were thinking about a sci-fi kind of movies in 2001, 2002, we are already seeing that reality. And because of social distancing, the new structures will have this element which will be made mandatory and not an optional. So in that way, you will have to actually do the technology, but you don't have to learn Python, or you don't have to learn digital marketing or anything of that particular sort. It's just about how this particular things are going to talk. And like I said before, there are electronics computer engineers who will go and program it for you and give it what you need from an analytics point of view, so that those analytics then you can make that to take the decisions in terms of the structures that you're going to do. So I talked about the civil, but the same thing applies to mechanical. Any industry, actually, the automation, if you look at, we were talking about a contactless, manless factory operations actually with just two persons, one particular man who's actually being there, and one is the dog who's going to be actually there. And the only reason the dog is going to be there is not to allow man to interface with the machine and trouble the machine, because man has the habit of of troubling and making the errors in that particular machine, right? And we talked about a seamless airport. So there was already a talk before the COVID area that why we need so many actually channels in the particular airport, why it can't be a very, very smooth airport where I have to travel from one place to another. I just go in, show my passport or show my identity card, get myself actually checked in, go to the boarding gate, get myself actually through the gates, which is e-gates, and get into my flight directly. Why I need so many people in between to do that particular stuff? So if you think of the new airport design tomorrow or new airport structure, you will have to keep these things in mind at every step of that particular industry. Are we using the technology so that the things that machine has to do, machine is going ahead and doing it, and the things that human being has to do, human being is going to do it. So I feel very strongly that both civil, mechanical, and all our core engineering is going to go more strength. But the only advantage that you guys should take is basically start learning about how an IoT works there, what's the technology that I can embed there. Don't think about you should know about every single sensor that is available in the market, but just that think about this sensor should do this one, right? If you can think about that, there will be companies who can create that sensors for you and give you that required input and output from that particular sensors. So it is the job of the civil and the mechanical engineer just to think broad. Our motors are not going to be the same motors that we are going to see. Our lathe machines are not going to be the same lathe machines that we are going to see. Our aircrafts are not going to be the same aircrafts we are going to see. It is going to be embedded with a lot more electronics, and that's where I think the whole industry is going.
Right, very true. Because there is another question which is, similar to that pattern. Like you answered his query. What is the best technology to learn in the future for electrical engineering? So, sir, you have very nicely explained that you don't have to go for technology or, Android or Python and everything. You have to think in within your area that what best thing is required, what best technology is required. Right?
Absolutely. So just let me give an example on the electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at the microwave oven, we call it as an electrical appliance. Now, microwave oven has actually modified it as a touch panel. It can do things. It can have a timer. It can have a heating device inside and stuff like that. So what people are thinking is, if I have to design a new microwave tomorrow, can I actually put a recipe on the microwave and microwave will start, stop at that particular temperature, give a cool down time, restart it, actually give it a little bit more heat, give a convention to that particular stuff where the heat element should come. What are the sensors that are detecting whether my food is not getting burnt and give an immediate response to the user, even if the user selects a wrong choice, how the system just gives back that particular thing. So you need to think it very holistically about things that you are going to do. The same thing is going to be high-end electricals, right? The transmission lines and everything, or the grids that we are talking about. The grids are going to be a connected grids. And if that grids are going to give you that information of how much power is going to be generated, what is my consumption level or that, should I generate more? Should I stop? Should I actually change my particular generation from wind to solar, from solar to wind or to the generator? This all particular factors is what that electrical engineer has to think of when he's designing the grid of the future, right? And that's where technology is not going to be indifferent from any core engineering. But like I said before, the languages you don't have to learn. Let that be, unless you really want to change the profession, unless you really want to go into a computer field and you feel that, oh, my parents actually told me to do civil, but I wanted to always do a computer.
Right.
And that is the case, then of course, please learn. There are enough opportunities available. You will get into a computer line, you will write programs, and you will actually solve the particular problem. But if you are civil, you like civil, you're passionate about civil, you just find technology areas around you, which is going to make you different compared to every other civil engineer being there.
Right, very true, sir. So there is Mr. Rishi Raj Pandey who has asked how this upcoming digital era is going to impact corporates in terms of salaries, in terms of growth and promotions, and also in terms of human values. And I would like to club one more question with this question. Full-time jobs will reduce and gig economy will see mainstream adoption. So I think you can resolve.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the workplace of the future is going to be very, very different, right? And we have already started thinking, every company, not only Happiest Minds, I'll say, but every company has started thinking about what is the new future workplace going to be? Should I have 50% of my work around the office? Should 50% work from home? Should I give satellite offices where a co-working space is available and two people go to the nearest place available, still work outside the home, but not in the office, right? And should I look at the talent which is sitting in remote place in Bhubaneswar and get that particular person's experience and still complete my project? Things that we were not thinking before is actually started opening up to think about where is this particular workplace. It's not just about India. If a person UI skills is available in Vietnam tomorrow, how should I be able to actually take that particular leverage and put it? And I completely agree with the fact that there will be a mix. I'll not say the full-time employees will go off, but there will be a good amount of mix that will come from this gig economy where people would be freelancing and giving service to multiple different companies at the same time, leveraging their skills and becoming the proficient. What we see today in the CA community or the lawyer community and all, right? It's not like major offices that they have, but independent CAs can work with 4 different firms, or independent lawyers can work with 4 different firms. And same thing we are going to see, at least from an engineering point of view, that possibility now has opened up for us to think. In what shape and form it comes up, only time will tell, and every company will try to adopt it in different way, and maybe there's a new normal. But at this point, it's the discussion primarily in the boardroom that what is the future of the place going to look like.
All right. So Prashant Mishra has asked, recently our Prime Minister says to focus on local things, but it may create the negative image of India in global market, and it also may decrease employment. Then how India will manage it?
So I think we don't have to worry about that factor, right? And you'll see that Trump is the most prominent in US as well for local things. Many people don't like Trump just because of his Swadeshi attributes that he brings to the table in terms of bring back the manufacturing in US and get the jobs done in US and all that thing. So it's not just about India or US or anybody. Every country has gone into the mode of self-reliance because they have actually thought that heavy dependence on a country for some goods is not the right way to do it. Right? And that I think has clicked in. And India doesn't have to worry because India is the biggest market. So even if there is other markets that people have to worry about, where there is a small country and they have to depend upon an external market as a consumers, to put it, India does not have to worry. The population, the strength of our middle class, the buying power, everything. Once post-COVID happens, I think all that thing is going to come back. And we will have the biggest of the market where not only India people or the Indian companies will thrive, but there will be a lot of other companies that are going to establish just looking at what the possibility of India market looks like. We have seen that in the mobile phone and seen what a market can give it for a mobile phone kind of a device. So market is heavy. So I don't think anybody has to worry about India is not a market to put it. We will have enough companies. And if that self-reliance really works, we will see number of companies that will open up.
What about overseas opportunities? Will they cease to exist?
See, overseas opportunity, it depends on the customer's business and how they actually operate, right? And of course, actually the H1s and L1s, as we know of, is going to take a hit, and especially for a near short term, where basically unemployment rates at every country is high. So of course, the focus from the country point of view is how could their citizens get their particular jobs, and that situation doesn't happen, that they have to actually depend on an outside country to satisfy some jobs. So I will feel that at least for a couple of years, you will find less opportunities on the on-site opportunities, but you will be working on on-site projects for sure. You'll work with on-site customers, you'll work with on-site projects because work still have to continue, but will they give a chance to come and work with you? There will be a limitedness in terms of that. But once the global economy again picks up, again the exchanges will happen and we will see more. So what US did to the world in terms of the last 20 years, we'll see a possibility possibly in India, where outside people will try to come to India and take that as an on-site opportunity for them as well.
Right. So I think there are two persons. They are from Corporate Relations Center, Mr. Atul Dingar and Mr. Pranav. They have asked the questions which are on the same line. And I hope that they have got the answers, but still I'll repeat the question. The impact of stimulus from government will take few years to materialize in terms of new companies coming up, MSMEs revamping, etc. So how fresh students, they can cope up for 1 or 2 years. And I would like to club one more question, which is from Mr. Pranav. Let me come to the question. COVID-19 badly infected each and every sectors, and IT too are included. So what would be your strategies to cope up and sustain in market, and what will be your criteria to provide opportunities to the freshers? So I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, although you have already answered like self-reliance,
Yes.
but still.
Yes. So I think let me answer the second question first. Is basically how are we coping with the IT and stuff like that, right? See, if you look at, I think though we are giving our gratitude and appreciation as to the frontline workers that are being there because it's a human element being involved. Back end, if you look at it, today we are here alive and we have all the data minute by minute of what's happening in every corner of the world is because of the connected IT that we have today, right? And systems are moving actually. Every single things on the back end of it, the data centers, the network, the mobile connectivity, the apps, the collaborations tools, everything is kind of working very seamlessly, and that is the solid backbone that we had. If you look at the just 100 years back on the Spanish flu, the major problem was not that we didn't had that particular frontline workers that were ready to support. The problem was that the connectivity and the reachability, and if people have to take a decision today, if the Prime Minister office have to take a decision, it has to take a decision on the data that is available. And if the data is not available, they will not be able to make the right decisions in terms of the lockdown, not lockdown, reforms and everything. It's basically there. So I think IT is not going away. Yes, there will be a slowness in that. It is just taking a shape. We talked about BPO last time when we met actually, that the BPO jobs will go, but it will translate into high-end jobs of analytics and everything. So I think there is enough more opportunities for an IT to come in. And like I said, the entrepreneurship is also going to rise, which will give you more opportunities to work on an IT. Actually, small apps will come, which can actually help the local, global kind of scenarios as well. And coming back to the first question on the reforms, just want to take that 1 minute. So reforms is a factor that earlier it used to take 5 to 10 years for any reform to take place and bring it to the implementations. If you look at Chinese new cities that are getting developed, it is like 6 months, 8 months time, the city is getting developed, right? And we're talking about cities there, not just the factories. And today, India has all the access to the technologies where a building can be actually set it up in flat 3 to 4 months. Doesn't require 4 years. It's just the matter of using the right technology to actually put that particular factories in place, give the access to the foreign companies with the tax, right policies, right taxification, the right ingredients for the product, and those reforms will start seeing in the action. We just saw that, right? 3 months we didn't had a single PPE equipment, zero. And even in the lockdown, we had 2.5 lakhs of PPE equipment that got actually produced. So it's not about people are not ready to take a challenge. People are ready to take the challenge. They just need support. And I think these reforms are enabling that right support to come to this particular industries. And if that is in a true form happens, we will just see a rise in the industries in India at least.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. And there is a student, I think he's a student, Mr. Harkesh. As you told, drone delivery is the future trend. When it will be implemented, and does government allow drone deliveries? What is unethical in government point of view? This question.
Yeah, drone is a big policy that government is working on, and in fact, actually, if you look at Happiest Minds is actually building the platform for the drone for Airports Authority of India, and see the entire platform will be actually made available, where policies, legality, how drones could be used, in what form and shape it is going to be used, all is getting defined. And once a particular platform is available for the people, and people find the use cases that are going to be prevalent, the policies are going to allow this particular things now to happen. And when people have realized that that is the contactless thing, the drone can actually reach to your home without any manual intervention being there. Your packages, your couriers, your food, your everything can be actually delivered, and see the impact of it actually. If there is a COVID patient quarantined at a home and he needs access to the food and supplies and nobody is ready to reach him to him, it's the drones that can do this particular wonders to him without anybody affecting in the whole process.
Very true. And Monica Agrawal has asked, hello Sandeep ji, if we'll try to resolve everything with IoT solutions, minimizing human intervention, don't you think it will impact employment in certain sectors?
No, it is not actually. If you look at it, that's why I talked about the why, what, and how part of it, right? The how part of it is getting done. If you look at the tollways, right, and we have people sitting there for almost 10 hours, 12 hours, and what is that person doing actually at that tollway? He's collecting the money, stopping the person, collecting the money, giving back that particular money, allowing that particular vehicle to go. We know that technologies have changed how the tools work, right? We don't need a human intelligence to be there for actually allowing the vehicles to pay the toll and go. So if those kind of things are happening, like I said earlier, postmen's used to there. When people said, oh, postman job will go, what will happen? Actually, this is the major job. Then there was a revolution in banking. We said the banking jobs will go because there will be no tellers. There will be no so many people employed in the banks. Everything will happen online, digital. It is just growing actually. The banks are actually growing with the number of employees that they today consume versus what they had 10 years back. So just that the nature of the work is going different, and we are trying to actually use more of human intelligence rather than using humans as robots to actually do the how part of the work. The how can be, if it's trained for the machine, like I said, they do it much better with less human intervention, less human errors.
Right. There is a very obvious question that since we are talking about, there is a question which has come from one of the students. You are talking about everything when we enter into the job line, but what about the current scenario when hiring has been reduced greatly, and how to enter into the industry? This has been asked by Shivangi Tiwari. So although yes, we have discussed a lot that it is now
Yes.
we are facing this situation, right? But you can
Absolutely.
guide once
And
again.
yes. I'll just add one more point there. I've talked about it, Shubhangi. Thanks for that question. It's all about actually the clusters, right? And if we are able to look at the challenges, problems, like I said, you don't have to come to a metro city and be in a big company, a big IT company to be really successful and all. There is a lot of problems now that government is throwing open. You look at the MyGov app, the number of things that people are trying to actually put challenges around, it's enormous, right? And that gives you the opportunity of being an entrepreneur, actually. Of course, you will need guidance, but once you step in, you are clear about your idea, you know what is going to be built up, how it is going to benefit, what's your business model. You will be surprised at the kind of help that you will get it around with industry experts being there, that they will guide you to actually become the entrepreneur. And not only you will create a job for yourself, but in the process you will actually enable more jobs for other people to join in that particular cluster and support you. It's just a matter of few individuals within that cluster taking that ownership. And we have a classic example of tier 2 and tier 3 cities like Hubli, Dharwad being there, Indore being there, Ahmedabad being there. The startup community is just rising. So it's just a matter of you looking at that particular aspect and giving rise to that particular startup community in your cluster so that everybody around that benefits, right? And I would also request in this particular forum, and I'd made that point to the campus as well, that why don't we enable within the campus of United Group to actually enable that particular startup culture in a much more serious way, where we actually enable 20 companies, 20 entrepreneurs to come and start off. And those entrepreneurs, even if they create 10 jobs, it's basically a huge job jump that is going to do, and that 10 is going to multiply to 100. So huge possibility. There's no dearth of infrastructure, there's no dearth of network being there, there's no dearth of ideas. Anywhere the product is getting created today, you have a global reach to actually export the product, but try it locally and then do it on a global basis.
Very true, sir, because you told us that now the small ventures, new ventures, startups, micro entrepreneurs, they will rise and become the frontiers in business and industry. So there are a lot of opportunities which are going to be available for the students. But there is one question which has been asked by Ankita Prasad. So as the competition will rise, increase only, what should be the right approach for a fresher to stand out of the crowd, since learning everything online is not enough? This was the previous question that I asked. Learning online is not enough. So what other things that they can do for their self management, self improvement, and self career management? In a nutshell, you can tell.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I think just look out for things that is happening around you. You are having access to LinkedIn, you have access to Facebook. There are multiple different things, initiatives being taken. There are a lot of NGOs who are coming forward, asking for technology help from core engineering as well as the technology students. Try to participate. You might not get a salary for some time, but my sincere request will be at this time, beyond your theoretical knowledge that you are getting through certification courses, get into a practical implementation, even at the merit of actually be able to do it remotely and participating in that particular activity full-heartedly and doing that particular practical project that you will get access to, right? And that's how your skill will be there. And but choose a path. Don't say that you know 20 technologies so you are the brightest student. It's not going to happen. If you are going to be an analytics, you should know Python, you should know AI, you should know automation. But if you are going to be an IoT, you should know the embedded part of it, you should know the sensors part of it, you should know about the IoT cloud platforms that exist and relevant technologies, right? So choose at least one area, a major focus that you want to put it. Look at the technologies that are supporting that one particular area and see how particular technologies are going to help you to derive that particular solution, right? And we have seen the supply chain breakage, both in terms of transportation and logistics, as well as of the delivery of the product, right from distributors to the small shop owners. And that's a huge challenge actually. And even at your small shop levels, if you are able to connect, even at Prayagraj level, that you are able to get all the shops connected and they can actually deliver the goods and services to the nearest customer, and customers have access to know the inventory of what the local shop contains. That itself is a big input to your practical knowledge that you are able to bring in, which will be relevant to the industry once the industry starts.
Right. One student has asked that what about the private space station, and another student has asked that why India has not banned the Facebook for privacy as China. So you can take one or two both together. What about private space station, and why India has not banned the Facebook for privacy?
So I'm not the right person to talk about the private space station. Of course, there is government, there is policies, and I'm sure ISRO, DRDO, everybody's looking at that particular aspect of private space station. There are reforms that is happening that, as I understand, that private companies are going to be more allowed to participate now in the space programs, just like Tesla was allowed to do a complete program. So I think there is reforms that is happening. But like I said, I'm not the best person in terms of the private space station to be talking about, and I'll restrict my comment on that. What is the question, Divya?
The 3-4 questions are all there. So the
Okay.
first.
So what I'll do, Divya, is actually I'll just play a video for the interested participants.
Right.
And this video is exciting. I'll just give you a brief about this. This is a video, and I'll give you the links after this particular stuff.
Sure.
Interesting video. It basically answers a lot of your questions. What's going into the mind? What is digital? How I actually we run it? What is the center of focus? Right? Like I said, actually, I didn't mention the word experience, but today people have moved from products and services to experience. Right? It is revolving around the customer, and everything revolves around the customer. If tomorrow customer wants to take a Tesla kind of a model, but have a Fiat kind of engine built in with that particular stuff, that kind of customization will be possible because things will be available, the inventories of different companies will be available, and somebody will come and integrate that particular stuff and give you the car of your choice with your set of leather cushioning, with your set of sunroof, moonroof, with your set of wipers that is going to be there, and the engine and the driving experience, right? So it's experience is going to be key. So whenever you're looking at certain experience, certain technologies, please look at the experience. Even for the core engineering students, when you're designing something, look at the experience. If somebody is going to walk into my particular resort or walk into my particular airport, walk into this particular building, what is that particular experience the person is going to look for, right? So just focus on that particular stuff. And if your thinking can be applied, you will become a creative person, not only based on your engineering, but the creativity that every engineer has to go through it. I'll just play this video. It's a 4-minute video, and then we'll come back and answer a few questions.
The voice is not coming. Voice is not coming.
Voice not coming?
Yeah, voice is not coming.
Okay. Voice was not coming?
No. It's not coming.
Okay. Yugandhar, you are aware why? What should I do?
No, you have to enable in Zoom app.
I think it cannot be done through screen sharing.
No, it can. It can.
Okay, so, but it is not, voice is not coming.
Audio on this computer.
Yuga, any?
Yeah, there is an option called audio. Yeah, audio on this computer.
Okay. Where? Share computer sound.
Yes.
Okay. Is it okay?
Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. No more. Where we are going, good enough is dead. In a world where everything is connected, where everything is equally excellent, where performance is reaching perfection, there's only one space left to innovate in: you. Right now, you are essentially waging tornado of change, fuel segmentation, disintermediation, automation. Well, the list goes on. Science fiction is becoming science fact. Think about self-driving cars or computers that can learn and think. The way we work will never be the same. The skills we need will dramatically different. Losing and not just before. It's your response. How will you discover new opportunities in one of the most transformational times in human history? Are you driving change or are you being driven by it? Disruption is always gradually, then suddenly, well, things really have stopped happening gradually. This change is exponential. Everything that used to be dumb and disconnected is now wired and intelligent. Cars, cities, ports, farms, even our bodies will be wired with sensors and will talk to each other. These game changers are also combinatorial. They amplify each other, creating a perfect storm of change. Quantum computing fuels big data. The Internet of Things fuels artificial intelligence and deep learning, which fuels robotics. However, anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Human-only traits such as creativity, imagination, intuition, emotion, and ethics will be even more important in the future, because machines are very good at simulating, but not at being. Yes, robots and software will do some of our work, but this will allow us to focus on things that cannot be automated. To imagine change squared, you've got to start engaging more with what might be, not just with what is. Immerse yourself in the immediate future, 5 to 7 years out from today. We need to go beyond technology and data to reach human insights and wisdom. Technology represents the how of change, but humans represent the why. The future is about holistic business model. The opportunity is to be liquid, to learn just in time, not just in case, not single improvements, but complete transformations, not individual systems, but new ecosystems. Humanity is where true and lasting value is created. We will engage, relate, and buy things because of the experiences they provide, because of their transformative power. The future doesn't just happen, the future gets happened. The new way to work is to embrace technology, but not to become it. The future is in technology, yet the bigger future lies in transcending it. Let's live and lead from here.
It's great.
That should answer some of the remaining questions.
Right. I think it has covered a lot of areas, and in fact, it is completing all the answers. So I can choose only a few, because the rest of the students can get their answers on their own. So, okay, so I would like to take 2 or 3 more questions, sir. Are you
Sure.
able to? Okay. So there is a student, Vaishnavi. She is from, I suppose she is from MBA or BBA. And she has asked that how will IT sector help management students to make their career ahead, and what are the opportunities to grow for these management students?
Yes, I think we didn't cover the management students. Thanks for questions. We focused more on the engineering of things.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think management is also going through a rapid change. I think what we learned on the management is going to change very drastically. Like I said, the workplace of the future, and if managers have to control the work while not in office, is going to be a very, very different dimension. While people will focus on self-management and try to do their work, the managements are going to be heavily dependent on tools, techniques, collaborations, and the metrics and the data that they are getting on their fingertips, right? So, because again, management is all about taking the right decisions. And if the right decisions can be taken, it has to be supported with the data. And data is going to be key. Earlier, you used to just walk around the particular floor and get the sense of what people are feeling, what people are doing, how things could be supported, and all that particular stuff. But being remote, which is going to be a core possibility, and not only remote within the city, but remote across the world, there is a lot of possibility that the management of future will have to deal with this. So I don't think there is any course at this particular point of time. I'm sure that will start coming in as people go through this particular COVID phase. But you can start thinking about that actually. What are the tools that are required for you to do your management role more effectively. Either it's HR, either it's finance, either it's engineering management, or any of the core things, right? Things are going to be very, very different. And again, the technology is going to play a role because the data has to be integrated, tools have to be there, and right analytics, right insights has to be created for you guys to take the decisions on.
There is very nice question from Smriti. So she has asked, should we start preparing for the interviews or we should plan for higher education now?
So it's a choice, right? Higher education and interviews is basically how ready you are.
No, because of this impact. So students have started.
No, I think it's again I'll answer that. It's not about getting the job. If you are able to get into a practical thing that I said and really apply your theoretical knowledge and get that exposure to wherever it could be, from a startup company, from an NGO or government related activities or anything. If you get that particular opportunity, my request will be at this point that, because practical exposure during this particular phase is going to be a long lasting impact, because you are going through a change management situation right now, which the entire world is going through. And the learnings that happens when a change management process is on, it is the highest learning. After the change management has done and few people figure that out and the new normal gets into the place, somebody will just guide you and say, this is how 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps has to be done. But nobody is going to allow you to see how you have to cope with that particular change and how you actually see that particular change happening when you are learning that. So my earliest recommendation will be that if you get a chance, get a practical exposure. If you are very, very interested on the higher studies and that's your particular option right now, which I think you can do it in a couple of years as well, but you're free to do it. It's a personal choice. But at this point, you will get the life experience. I'm not sure in our lifetime we are going to get that experience. Any of us are going to get that experience.
Right, sir. But still the questions are coming up. Like there is a question which is a little different. I can take this question. What would be the impact on the roles of HRs? What are the challenges and opportunities for them? And I can club this question with another one. Like COVID outbreak is forcing companies to explore how they can survive with such crisis. So put some focus on it. So crisis part is there.
Right. Crisis, I think we covered it, but HR part, I think is very, very interesting, right? I think again, it all depends on the workplace of the future, how it is going to be looked at it, how the talent acquisition happens, right from inception to the company. How do you find the right talent? What is needed for the company, to getting engaged with them, and basically supporting them in the best possible ways to make the business happen. So things are not going to be again same. It was pretty much an office constraint that the HRs are used to, and not really actually in terms of a widespread screen which are beyond the boundaries, right? And the biggest thing actually, not only the HR, the every other function, if you look at it, the IT function, right? You had a firewall within the office, and that firewall used to actually control everything that you would share and look at the data. But where is the firewall when you are working from home, right? You just have your laptop, you have your desktop, everything is exposed, every data is exposed, every single cyber attack is possible because you are just on a public network doing things for a corporate network. So again, innovations are going to happen. People are going to find ways of better HR management, better IT management, better network management. And this all is going to be an opportunity for you guys to do things differently than just see what 20 years before people were doing it and just adopt to it actually. So it's a chance to think differently and do differently.
Right. So sir has nicely covered the answer of this question, and the question was asked by Smriti, should I go ahead with the higher education? And her next question is that if we start with higher education, then in next 2 years, something will be fine or stable jobs will be available. So yes, Smriti, you have to position yourself. So this is the time. This is the time for self-management, change management. So in that way, you can acquire some skills. So it is a skill of acquiring more skills. So
absolutely, and reach out to the industry, right? Today, there is no particular distinction between where you are reaching out. Like I said, actually, there is 20% job cuts that are already happened, right? right? And people are available actually, which has time available with you. It's just a matter of how you are networking it. Take the best use of it. You might hit a particular company or a person that can guide you in terms of a practical thing. If not, like I said, actually, even the campus project, we can just take it up and we can just implement, because what is important is the practical knowledge. Where you do it is not important actually, and that could be applied later in the industry. So the more you actually create yourself, you will be actually odd amongst the rest of the students that are going to be there this year, next year, and probably the year after. And you need to actually start rising in terms of that. So do the projects, get into that, bring the groups, look at a mentor, look at opportunities, challenges, and even government projects. Go and sponsor the government project. Actually, be part of that government. Say, I will support, and you will be actually part of the team that is doing multiple other things actually. So it's a wide opportunity at this point of time.
Very true, sir. Yesterday only I talked to all those students who are working for that smart UGI project, right? So
Yes,
we have to submit it to you. So
absolutely.
the students are already there. They have started working on it. Let's see
Right.
that what best comes out.
So let me throw in some challenges, right?
Right.
It's basically important for you guys to look at it, right? How COVID vaccine, of course, is the measure in which people are waiting for the vaccine. But without vaccine, actually, what is that COVID we can do, right? So COVID, biggest thing is actually that it spreads very fast from a positive case, right? So identification of that particular positive case is the biggest thing. So if you look at Arogya Setu app, it's trying to do that. But is it 100% reliable, 100% accurate, 100% available to everybody? Probably not, right? And some companies just did that with the Singapore government support, where they actually exchanged that particular technology to our team. And that basically the team actually went on and did this particular Arogya Setu app in a very, very record time, which was actually 100 million downloads. You can see that that has happened just in India. So if you look at those things, that you have a multidisciplinary skill, you have a mechanical team, you have an electronics team, you have a probably medical team that you can take support on, you have a research team. If there are health trackers that could be designed, which with looking at COVID parameters, even 90% if it's going to be actually recognized, and you are able to trace that particular people, and the people get the guidance that they will not move out themselves, then a lot of issues will get actually looked upon, right? It can be constrained to the areas that this particular containment can be retained on. The other things is about the public spaces, right? How you quickly identify in the airports, in the bus stations, in the train stations. If my camera is going to do a screening of all the particular individuals that are moving around, and basically catch up through the thermal screening if any COVID patient is there with the symptoms, with particular thermal imaging. I don't know what the medical science will talk about, but the technology can surely look at that particular imaging, and even a spot traces that they find out, they should be able to isolate, and the person can immediately be out of that particular crowd, right? So it's so many things just as possibilities with this interdisciplinary skills that you are able to bring it together and create that. Maybe your project will not succeed, maybe your product will not see the end of the light, maybe the product will not give you the revenues, but just bringing those particular facts will give you enough learning experience today that you will be able to actually be a recognized engineer for years to come.
Right. So similar on the same line, there is a question: what is the best procedure for any startup to start from the zero level? So I think you have given them the idea that yes, you have to
Start with an idea. Start with an idea. It's a concept, it's an idea. What's the problem statement?
Right.
What are the people that you are trying to actually solve that particular problem for? Do you have right resources that you can actually gather it? Do you have enough knowledge about that particular subject matter? Because domain is critical, important in terms of understanding that particular scenario. And then looking at few mentors in the industry that can guide you through that particular process. And like I said, don't worry about making it success. Success is a very relative term. Nobody can actually define some. It's a personal choice, and success cannot be defined. So anything that you are doing it for you, it is a success. Whether it's for the market, it might be a failure, but for you, it will remain as a success, because that's the learning you'll carry with you throughout.
Yeah, we can take advantage of these hard times, because we have enough time and scope to improve ourselves and grab the opportunities which are related to our self-management, right? So this is very important. So there is one question, I think it is the last question. It has been asked by Senior Manager Corporate Relations, Mr. Pranav Singh. In US, about 30 employment category, and now their priority is their own people. Opportunity from European countries, and many senior people are moving back to India. They too are in competition. So job market will be adversely affected in future. So how far a fresher could cope himself or herself to take this challenge?
So I'll turn that challenge to an opportunity, right? If senior people is coming back to India with their experience of a global market, what is the advantage? Right? It is the best of the advantage because you are getting a person who has been there in US, Europe, looked at the market, looked at the process, looked at the engineering in a different side, coming back to India. If little bit push to be given to that particular person and he creates a startup, he will have a startup of 100, 200, 500 people that he could actually build up a product that is going to be there. And all these guys have an entrepreneur mindset because US actually promotes, even at your job, they actually promote you to do your entrepreneurship, and you can actually support other projects as well. So if you are able to get those kind of talent back and these guys are really interested, get them to the college, I'll say, get them to Prayagraj with the government support, whatever we could get it, have them actually give 1 year of ration pani, jo bhi dena hai unko, and just make them set up the things and create those particular companies which becomes a boosters for you. So this was the right model that Hubli and Dharwad did actually in 3 years back, where basically they went and scouted for all the localites, Harvard, the Hubli people, which were residing in US and Europe. They called them, they said actually your native, your soil is calling you back. And they emotionally actually talked to them. And some of them basically took it as a challenge. They came back, they basically started the particular ecosystem in a startup, and it's a much more thriving startup now. Even Hubli Dharwad, if you look at it, the largest Asian startup it is there from a campus perspective is today in Hubli Dharwad. And that was just possible by few people taking there who didn't had an idea about the startup, but they just went around looking at who are the natives who have gone from here either to metros or to outside countries, and then talk to them. And because of the soil connection, get their particular experience or bring them back and start up that whole ecosystem. So you really don't need everything locally available. You can actually take that experience from outside as well.
Right. So I think this was the last question because more or less almost all the questions are having the same intention. So you can, at the end, you can give them 3 to 4 important points that as the takeaway of this webinar, and then definitely we can go ahead.
Sure. So 2 key takeaways actually. I think one is I think defining your purpose, right? Why are you doing what you are doing is important than what you are doing. It's an important note that you should take it forward. Every time ask yourself a question, why I am doing that, right? Don't just focus on what I'm doing and just be efficient on that. But why is important? That will start defining your purpose in life, what you really want to do. Even if you have chosen the wrong kind of syllabus or a wrong curriculum, it's an opportunity for you now to look at new things, get into the right track as part of your vision. Because if your passion gets aligned to your profession, the success is true to be guaranteed, right? Many people actually look at profession, not that is coming from a passion, but just they took it as a work, and that's where the work-life balance starts shaping up, because you treat work as work and life as life. But if your passion actually makes your profession, you've seen the photographers, right? The photographers, when they take the passionate and make that as a profession and start earning money, that's the biggest satisfaction that they carry, because the success that they have or the satisfaction that they have is much more than the money that they are actually getting the satisfaction of. So get your purpose aligned, and after that follow the FIT rule. FIT is FIT, F is focus, I is integrity, the best of the integrity, and T is technology. In everything that you do, look at bits of technology that can actually be embedded. Without technology, don't try to create an idea that is not going to fly, because this is going to be a connected world, and FIT is your particular mantra that you should actually take it. For companies, we are looking at SAS, SaaS, which is speed, agility, accuracy, and scale. right? These are the 4 dimensions in which a company needs to succeed on. Because if we are not agile, we are not speedy enough, we are not accurate enough in terms of quality, deliverables, and everything, and we are not addressing a scale, the company does not actually take a long view and a long-term view. So this fit for the individual and SaaS for the companies is 2 things, but both requires purpose. And the question that you need to ask yourself is why. And once you get that answer, I'm sure you'll find the what, how, when, where, everything will be answered for you.
Thank you so much, sir. You have given, very nice formula. And in fact, 2 terms, fit and SaaS. And definitely every person would take care of these 2 important takeaways from this webinar. So friends, dear students and participants, no doubt we have uncertain pathways with often uncertain results. But we are not going to be afraid of that change. We are going to be ready for the change, and we have to enter into this digital era. So we have to take some proactive steps and manage our focus, our own self and our own career. So as Mr. Sandeep has nicely and intelligently explained, that the best we can do and we should do is to take advantage of this VUCA environment by becoming aware of these shifts first, and then asking questions, why, what to do. And then, knowing how to position ourselves. This is very important. Every now and then one or the other student is asking the question, how to do, what to do. So this is the time of self-inquiry, right? So you know your skills, current skills, and now how to club your skills with the, in time and in demand skills. And then accordingly, you can plan. Your teachers, your trainers, industry persons are also there with all of us, so that we can provide you the right kind of guidance. But you have to take your own decision depending upon the current opportunities and also your vision. So thank you very much, Mr. Sandeep, for taking out some time and out of your busy schedule and giving your insights and valuable knowledge to all of us. We hope and wish to see you once again in any of our upcoming webinars, because we are planning to have a series of webinars. So let's see and hope that we wish to see you once again. And thank you very much. I would like to extend my thanks to all the team of Happiest Minds Private Limited and all the participants who have paid attention towards this seminar. So stay in touch and stay home. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Divya ma'am, and thanks for the management team as
Thank
well.
you so much.
Thanks, participants. Yeah, bye.